very top. And then as we started moving around, we moved to the next issue group, healthcare reform, then immigration reform, then social justice. Then we created a very powerful group, Stand with Women, and then our fiscal and economics group, our election outreach group, climate change, which is what this whole meeting here, the issue group that's presenting this today. And then we have two Restore Our Democracy groups, one that focuses on voting rights, elections, gerrymandering, vote by mail, all different types of issues of the day. And then we have another Restore Our Democracy group that focuses on confronting disinformation. So those are our 10 snowflake issue groups. And we have 20 communications group with people taking on the responsibility to communicate, to send information out. And if you feel like you're getting too much information from us, it's because you probably are. We cross-cover everything. Our secret sauce is we have 24 all-volunteer leads, and they work collectively. Usually there's a lead or a co-lead on an issue group. And then we have about 6 people that are focused on the communication area. So that's just the secret sauce of the organization. Tonight, we have Mark Lundholm, who has organized this, and he'll tell us a little bit about this in a couple seconds. He is our climate change group lead. And interesting, Mark not only leads the climate change, but he spent a lot of time cleaning up disasters in his background. So Mark, I'm going to turn this over to you and I'll stop sharing.
Very good. So thank you everybody for coming. This is our monthly climate change meeting with NWSOFA-Indivisible. Tonight we have 2 delightful presenters. Trisha Maharaj, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is from Indivisible National. And we have Angela Hsu from the Illinois Environmental Council. And they're presenting their perspectives on the rollout of the Inflation Reduction Act and what we can expect from it. We're trying to find out how this is rolling out. And on my personal thing, I have my condo is not hooked for 220 current, so I asked the electrician what it would cost to hook it up, and he said $800 to $1,000 to get me to 220 because I want to get an induction stove. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I looked on the Rewiring America Act thing, and it said that the rebates may or may not be rolling out yet, or maybe they will. And so I'm hoping that Trisha and Angela can give us some guidance on what is actually happening. And I know that a lot of you folks out there are also interested in how this is rolling out. There's a lot of money that is potentially available for us to upgrade our systems in our homes and make them healthier. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Trisha and to Angela. And maybe, Trisha, would you start and talk about yourself a little bit? And then we can have Angela talk about herself a little bit, and then we can start sharing.
So, hi everyone, I'm Trisha Maharaj. I'm the Associate Policy Director here at Indivisible National. I will say that I work a lot on economic policy and on democracy and courts work. And so I'm really glad to be here with you all to talk about, I think, one of my biggest passions, which is active inclusive government. And the Inflation Reduction Act is one of the best examples in my lifetime, at least, of active inclusive government at work. A little bit about where I was before Indivisible. I learned to love active inclusive government at the Roosevelt Institute, where I worked on economic policy. Before that, I worked in international reproductive rights at several different organizations. And I will turn it over to Angela.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the sound in the background. First, thank you so much to both Bill and Mark for having me this evening. My name is Angela Hsu, and I am the Municipal Engagement Manager with the Illinois Environmental Council. A little bit about my background is, before this, I got my Juris Doctor degree with Stetson University College of Law. I've worked a little bit with Ocean Conservancy, Sierra Club, High Nicole, as well as Friends of the Chicago River and more. And I agree with Trisha. I think this is such an incredible piece of legislation that can really share a lot of benefits with different municipalities. And so really excited to be presenting on this tonight.
So let me share my screen and I'll talk a little bit about like big picture, like what is the Inflation Reduction Act? How is it looking nationally? And then turn it over to Angela to talk about what this is looking like in Illinois.
If I could just make one comment to have people put their questions into chat, and then we'll try to get to those as we proceed.
Great. Can everyone see my screen? Does that look like
Not yet.
Yet? Okay, hold on.
Yes, that's okay. Here.
Okay, amazing. So what is the Inflation Reduction Act? It was signed into law by President Biden in August of 2022, and it really is this generational achievement. We're talking about millions of good jobs in clean energy, a completely transformed energy sector, and savings for everyday people due to lower prescription drug costs and rebates for energy efficiency. I did not realize you all were the climate change group, so we can kind of skip over some of the healthcare provisions if that's of less interest. But like I said earlier, this legislation is a great example of active inclusive government in action. It's investing really big in our communities and our families so that they can have good good paying jobs, can have clean drinking water, and they can live in clean energy, climate resilient homes. When these programs are popular and successful, that builds faith in government and changes how people understand the role of government and what it can and should deliver for all of us. And that in turn then spurs more active, inclusive investments in our families and communities, which is a really big reason why I'm so excited by the legislation. And if we can get more people to understand how the IRA benefits them, it really does open up so many more possibilities for what people will demand their government provide for them next. And so that's, I think, how we start to get real meaningful climate legislation. And then we can skip over the healthcare benefit. And so then when it comes to what the Inflation Reduction Act does for clean energy and climate, there's almost $400 billion of funding in this bucket of the legislation, and it does three main things. It makes clean energy investments in more reliable, locally sourced energy that's good for the planet. It promotes energy efficiency for buildings, including for individual homes and for schools. And it supports resilient communities by fighting pollution and supporting environmental justice in communities that have traditionally been left behind and kind of suffered the worst impacts of climate change. This has been a historic investment in our climate, and it really is ushering in our clean energy future. Communities are going to benefit from over 9 million jobs being created over the next 10 years. And that's about 1 million good paying family supporting jobs each year. And there are so many different tax breaks that give money directly to communities and to our households to make them more energy efficient and resilient to climate change. So the government is making it easier than ever to save money on your energy bills. And I know Angela's going to talk a little bit more about exactly how you can do all of that. But before we get there, I just wanted to talk about some Inflation Reduction Act numbers. There are 271,000 clean energy jobs already created across the US, and that is 5,864 clean energy jobs in Illinois alone. There are 13 projects across the state that have spurred more than almost $9 billion in private investments. I went too fast. 4 of those projects are in low-income communities, and 3 of them are in rural communities. So the investments really seem to be spread out across the state, and the communities that I think have the most to benefit from it, from these large climate investments, are really utilizing them and kind of seeing the benefits already. And with that, I will turn it over to Angela.
Thank you so much, Trisha. So just to start, I know, Mark, you made a great comment about, I don't want to get an induction stove. So really quick, I dropped in the chat. It says the Energy Star site provides eligible appliances, instructions for how to claim federal tax credits, and a rebate finder. So a lot of people ask me, where do I start? This is a really great place to start. So with that, hi everyone again. My name is Angela. I'm the Municipal Engagement Manager with the Illinois Environmental Council. And yeah, I'm here to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act. This is a lot of information. I'm going to give a very high level presentation. So please don't feel like you have to quickly write down everything. It's meant to be a lot of material. The IRA has over 120 different programs. And so I'm just going to touch upon a few of them. You will get the copy of the slides afterwards. You will get a copy of the recording. So I'm also more than happy to chat with you after today's webinar. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. But yeah, so just to start, Illinois Environmental Council since 1975 has worked to safeguard Illinois, its people, its plants and animals, and the natural systems. And we are a member affiliate organization. We represent over 150 different organizations operating across the state of Illinois. And next slide, please. And we work across various issue areas, including conservation, energy, agriculture, transportation, workforce, clean water, zero waste. And so thank you so much, Trisha, for giving us a really great background on the IRA. I also want to talk about the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, because we can't talk about IRA without CEJA. The 2021 CEJA is the most clean energy jobs bill of its kind in the nation. It laid the groundwork to make federal funding opportunities possible in Illinois. And in this presentation, we're going to actually talk a little bit more about how CEJA has played into the rollout of IRA in Illinois, including the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And next slide, please. So let's look at some of the programs. Again, this is not comprehensive, but it does show a few of the buckets of funding that I want to touch upon today. So there is the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, or the GRF, within which we have the Solar for All program. There's also the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, or the CPRG, and then the Rural Energy for America program, also called REAP. And then we also have the Environmental and Climate Justice program, within which we have the very important community change grants. And then separate from those, the IRA has various different tax credits, reductions, and rebates. And there's also something called direct pay. All right, next slide, please. So the US EPA's $27 billion Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund provides financing to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for communities. These can be used to create state or city green banks. Now, what are green banks? They are institutions of finance. They are important sources of low-cost capital for emerging clean tech sectors in a state. How does the money move? Well, so under CEJA, right, we talked about CEJA real quick, the Green Bank in Illinois was created. It's the Illinois Climate Bank, or the Illinois Finance Authority, also called the IFA. And it was established to allow Illinois as a state to apply for IRA programs. So this is really huge. So because we have the Climate Bank, Illinois can more efficiently get a lot of financial dollars from federal funding. And so within the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, right, so it's going to go US EPA is the agency. Then the money goes to a National Clean Investment Fund competition. And then that money is awarded to 3 different nonprofits, one of which is the Coalition for Green Capital. And then that one was actually awarded $5 billion of funding recently. And the Illinois Finance Authority was a sub-awardee. So again, that's US EPA to the NCIF, to those nonprofits, to us here in Illinois at the Climate Bank. So this is a lot of information already, right? So the Illinois Finance Authority was awarded $156 million from the US EPA's Solar for All program. And this can be used to expand low-income solar, to expand Illinois' Solar for All program, and Illinois Shines. And it's really going to enable over 900,000 low-income households and communities to benefit from distributed solar energy. Yes, and what's also really great about the IFA is that local governments can now apply for loans. And then next, what's really important for municipalities in Illinois is the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. IEC, along with the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition, or the ICJC, we've been working really closely for the CPRG process. So what it is, it's a program that helps states, local governments, and MSAs, or metropolitan statistical areas, implement these policies to achieve climate pollution reduction. The ICJC, along with IEC, we were tasked by the state of Illinois, the governor's office, to think of areas that we want to see improvements or programs implemented. So we give a lot of feedback on the building sector, transportation sector, and building sector as well. And so after that, then the IEPA, along with the governor's office, came to ICJC and IEC and said, we want to now start pulling projects from across the state, because there's different phases of the CPRG. Phase 1 was talking about the planning. So the planning phase is we want to pull together different projects. So we reached out to our municipal partners, our community partners, and everyone submitted projects to us, which we then shared to the state and to the IEPA. The IEPA operates as the state of Illinois' energy office. So then they took those projects, they created their PCAP, or their Priority Climate Action Plan. And then that was due by March 1st. And so that was submitted, and it's actually published on the IEPA website. You can check that out in this link down below in the slide. After that, by April 1st, the IEPA, along with the governor's office, they then submitted their CPRG application. And so we also did a CPRG Lunch and Learn. There's a YouTube link that I will share with both Bill and Mark to share with you all in case you're more interested in how that process took place. The Rural Energy for America program. We've seen actually a lot of really great success stories in the state of Illinois. So in the second half of 2023 alone, over 200 Illinois farms and rural small businesses received hundreds of thousands of dollars for renewable energy projects. So that includes a lot of solar for, let's say, a farm or a small business. And as of, I think it was April 23rd, we then saw even more money being awarded to Bowen, Illinois, Mason City, Lorain, Ursa. The Environmental and Climate Justice Program is very important. It funds financial assistance and technical assistance for programs that benefit underserved and overburdened communities. Congress appropriated $2.8 billion for financial assistance. On the right side, we see an IRA disadvantaged communities map that's going to assist potential applicants. So you can actually look at this map and you can see which parts of Illinois light up on the map. The US EPA has to reward all of this money by September 30th, 2026. Again, I mentioned that the community change grants is very important. It's one program under this bucket of funding where there's $2 billion in funds for environmental and climate justice activities to benefit disadvantaged communities. So I'm really trying to encourage a lot of municipalities to apply to the community change grants. These are due by November 21st. What's really great is that if you're a local government and you apply to this, and then the US EPA will actually give you feedback and say, well, we actually need more information here. We want to make sure you improve your application in this way. You can submit the application as many times as possible as you want to, as long as you get it in soon and before that deadline, and then they will help you kind of improve your application. The US EPA and the US DOE selected 16 environmental justice thriving communities technical assistance centers, also known as EJ Tic Tacs. In Illinois, there are two conglomerate groups that are doing these EJ Tic Tacs. One is called Blacks and Green, and then the other one is the Great Lakes Tic Tac led by University of Minnesota, including the UIUC, Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And again, I know this is going very quickly, so you will have all these slides, and I'm also open to connecting with you further after this. So please don't feel worried if you're this is so much and I can't completely absorb everything at once. No worries. I'm going to share this all with you after the fact. So let's start talking about some different tax credits. The investment tax credit and the production tax credit are upfront investment costs for a project, such as solar or battery storage. So with investment tax credits, these are earned if it is installed during the tax year. And in contrast, the PTC, the production tax credit, generates these credits per kilowatt hour of energy produced for the first 10 years of the project's operation. And then on top of that, we have these bonuses or adders. So these increase the amount of tax credits depending on the type of project that you have. And I'll talk more about that soon. So these are just a sampling of credits that are available to small businesses, to community members. So for example, the Clean Electricity Investment Tax Credit provides a tax credit for investment in facilities that, as the name suggests, generate clean electricity. The Low-Income Communities Bonus Credit Program provides a 10 or 20% increase to the investment tax credit qualified solar and wind energy facilities. It prioritizes job creation and providing benefits to underserved communities. As of today, actually, the U.S. Treasury just announced that applications are open and applications will close on June 27th. And this is because there's actually a limited pocket of funding for the Low-Income Communities Bonus Credit. In contrast, everything else, you can just apply every year. But this is a competitive fund. And then with the domestic content bonus tax credit, it applies to renewable energy facilities that are constructed with a minimum percentage of produced end components from the United States. And it provides a 10% bonus for facilities financed by the ITC that comply with prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements. So a big part of the IRA is that we want to make sure that the United States of America is the one that's benefiting. And so if you have the domestic content for your project, then you get actually this bonus added on. And then really quickly, I might have forgotten this slide. I really want to talk about direct pay. This is such an incredible opportunity for local governments, municipalities, nonprofits, entities that previously did not have to, for example, pay taxes. It used to be only private businesses, because they paid taxes, they could only get these payments directly from the US Treasury. Well, now nonprofits, local governments, municipalities can all get these direct payments. So let's say you have a renewable energy project, you can now get those funds directly sent to you. You don't have to go through another entity just to do that. And all it takes is pre-registration on the US Treasury website. So now with this slide, what this graphic kind of illustrates is, let's say you start with that clean electricity investment tax credit that I talked about with 30%. then you add on these two adders, so you have 10% and 10%, then that is already 50% of that tax credit. Half of your project is already covered thanks to the IRA. Oh, there's my elective pay slide. So yeah, there you go. So as you can see, eligible entities can for the first time receive payments equal to tax credits for qualifying clean energy projects. I'm not going to go through all of these, but as a homeowner or a renter, you do have a lot of benefits available to you. So these are just some examples. I will share with you after today's webinar some fact sheets that you can actually go in and you can click on the links in the fact sheets to take you directly to the projects and the tax credits available to you. So in the chat, I had placed the Energy Star website. That's a really great place to start. There's low-income tax credits available under the HEHRA. And then we also have the home energy rebates coming out too. So we've been speaking closely with the Illinois EPA. And what we've heard is that by next month, which is just a few days away, they are submitting their project application to the US EPA. There's already a lot of money allocated for the IEPA to roll out these home energy rebates at the residential level. And before they do this, they're actually going to hold public input sessions where they're going to have the public come and stakeholder meetings, and they're going to ask, what do you think of these, this blueprint that we've created? And they're going to ask your opinion. And so we're keeping track of that and making sure that that word gets out to everybody in Illinois to make sure that your voices can be heard. We're going to work with the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition as well to bring in our experts to provide that feedback. Additionally, what we've heard from IEPA directly is that the rollout of these programs is expected sometime in Q1 of 2025. What this program looks like, I'm not really sure about yet because they haven't announced it. However, if you're wondering, well, if I'm electrifying in 2023 and 2024, can I still benefit? Yes, because we have all these different programs available to you outside of those home energy rebates. We have a lot of tax credits under the IRA that are available. You can also get tax credits and rebates back if you purchase an electric vehicle. So for example, if you are a municipality and you want to electrify your fleet, or let's say you want to purchase medium duty to heavy duty vehicles, there are those programs available to you. All right, one of the last things I want to leave you with is the climate program portal. Anyone can go and make an account. I highly recommend if you're working with municipalities to make an account. If you're ever wondering what IRA programs are available, for example, I get questions all the time like, is there an IRA program available for urban forestry? Or is there an IRA program available for transportation infrastructure? You can actually go on this website and you can look that up, and it will actually give you a live updated kind of breakdown of this data that they're collecting. It also provides information about the bipartisan infrastructure law as well. And as you can see, the screenshot here shows the state of Illinois is highlighted. This is how much money has been awarded in the state of Illinois so far under the bipartisan infrastructure law, as well as the IRA. All right, and the very last note I'll leave you with is we really want to focus on the power of storytelling. We believe that's a benchmark of success for us at IEC, and we believe in visibility. If you see any success stories about the IEC, please share that with us. We love to hear it. We want to make sure that this visibility is out there and everyone can see the success and celebrate together. Because once we see it, we have cause and effect. It is possible to get a lot of these tax benefits from this program. It's a huge monumental piece of legislation, and I'm happy to share this information with you. And last slide, Trisha. And that's my contact information, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. This is all good stuff. And for those of you out there, I don't know if you are familiar with some of the funding things. For instance, the Department of Agriculture for a long time has had a bank with a lot of money in it that it loans out to low-income farming communities, for instance, rural communities, that goes to local banks, that loans to farmers, that's repaid, that goes back into the funding. So there's a funding mechanism that keeps renewing itself. And I think, and Angela and Trisha, can you maybe talk about that a little bit? That's a really great way of funding things because it's renewed and you don't have to go back to the federal government or taxpayers to get more money. So maybe you want to comment on that a little bit. And we have some questions in the chat too. Take a look at that. Am I correct about the funding mechanism? Is there an IRA funding bank? I think there is. Either one, Trisha, you unmute, and Angela unmute or talk about that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that great question, Mark. So I had really touched upon the Illinois Finance Authority. Every single state has the capability of establishing their climate bank through the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. But Illinois was really set up very well thanks to CEJA, because CEJA helped establish our climate bank. And then through the IRA, now that this greenhouse gas reduction fund, like billions of dollars are available to us, Illinois can easily receive that funding, and we have. So now our Solar for All program can be executed. And I just put into the chat a link to the authority website. They have all of their stakeholder meetings recorded, all of their presentations are uploaded. So if you have any interest in browsing those, it's all available to the public there.
Trisha, unmute. Do you want to make any comments about the funding mechanisms?
A lot of the funding mechanisms are kind of state specific, so I'm learning about them kind of as you are. Yeah, so nothing to add besides that. Like, I think that is a really great kind of system that is set up for this funding to kind of keep going. Sorry.
So we had some questions in the chat. Do we want to take a look at some of those? Bill, do you see some of those? Do you want to bring some of them up?
Yeah. The first one was from Hugh Graham, and his question was, why am I hearing only a couple EV charging stations have been built? And that's a good question. It seems like I'm seeing them around, not particularly charge stations, but it seems like every retailer has one or two charging pumps. I'm going to call them pumps because I don't know what else to call them.
That may have something to do with
I've seen news stories that there were supposed to be thousands of charging stations built by, sponsored by the federal government, but that there's only been a few of them that have built. I don't know, that might be misinformation, but I'm kind of looking for talking points when I canvass.
No, Hugh, I think that's true. And I think we should talk to Pete Buttigieg about it. We're having a lot of trouble getting them rolled out because there's such a huge demand for it. And part of the problem is the national grid. And if we can get the funding going to renew the national grid, both the east and west grid linked up, that's going to make a huge difference. I know it's being worked on, and I think there's legislation still being worked on, but it's slow, and it's too slow. I see more and more stations at charging stations at the Whole Foods by me and at the South Barrington Mall. There are a lot of charging stations in the South Barrington shopping mall, which I was surprised to see. But nationally along the highway system, that's something that does need to be rolled out. And I don't know if Angela and Trisha, you want to talk about that? Any comments?
Yeah. Oh, Trisha, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. We can say that, you guys are right that I think the Biden administration promised that we would see tons of these EV charging stations all over the country really quickly, and it hasn't quite materialized yet. And I think that kind of a lot of the provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act are because it takes a long time to do things right. I think that that's what the administration is kind of finding out as they're rolling this out, is that it takes a long time to work with each state to develop an implementation plan and then roll those things out. And so that's part of it, is that there's, kind of developing guidance for the program and then partnering with each state for their implementation plan and then actually rolling it out. Part of it is also that Tesla, for better or for worse, makes really great EV chargers. But the other brands of EV chargers in the past have not always been really reliable or had very high standards. And I think that the administration is really focused on ensuring that all chargers that are installed, are not just Tesla chargers, but are at a higher quality and standard than they have previously been. And so creating standardization is also just taking some time, and ensuring that they have the capability to produce high quality, high standard EV chargers is just taking longer than I think anybody would like. So I think that that's really what it is. It's just that it takes a really long time to do things really well. And so they're coming, but certainly not as fast as we would like.
There's a really great question in chat from Mike Zanillo. I don't know if you can bring it up and see it. Mike is with the Climate Citizens Climate Lobby. He actually put in a heat pump furnace system, and he could talk about that. Mike, do you want to come off mute and talk about your question?
Oh, sure, Mark. So, as I understand it, IRA, which is a great piece of legislation when it was constructed, it had the goal of taking us where we basically were on a path of achieving 27% reduction of our greenhouse gas emissions to 40%. A lot of that is obviously national power generation in nature. And as I understand it, a large chunk of it is actually at risk because even though there's a huge pipeline of renewable projects, they really can't be brought online until we further develop the national grid so we can move the power from where it's produced to where it's needed. Because unlike fossil fuel generation, you usually have a coal plant right in an urban setting where the power is needed, but renewables work very differently. So is there any kind of update you can provide by way of permitting reform? I know we at Citizens Climate Lobby are certainly making that a priority issue because it would be a travesty to have IRA not realize its full potential because we can't move the power from A to B.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Citizens Climate Lobby. I'll just say that first, and I'll defer to you for that answer on like a national scale.
I will say that permitting reform, very necessary, very, I think, top of mind for a lot of Democrats who really care about like climate and rolling out the IRA in a really efficient way. I don't think that permitting reform is something that we're going to see before this calendar year is up. I think that we would need a very different House and Senate for that to happen. And so I think that that is after we, hopefully retake both chambers in November, that's, I think, the fight that we start then.
And for those of you who don't know, the U.S. has a national renewable energy lab in Golden, Colorado. You can look it up and see the stuff that they're doing. And they put out a study in 2018 on connecting the East and West grid, which is really cost effective. It just boggles the mind that we haven't been able to proceed on that. So, but yeah, look at the National Renewable Energy Lab in Golden, Colorado. You'll see some interesting stuff. But anyway, let's see, what other questions do we have? Do we want to look at some others here? Thanks, Mike.
Mark, Joyce has a question. She says that she heard a Biden staff member say that the real benefits will kick off in an upcoming few years because the startup effort is so big. Another reason to get Biden reelected. And then she made another comment: how will low-income communities see these solar options, solar farms? ? Joyce, maybe you want to come off mute and explain a little bit more in detail what your question is.
I know it sounds great to give like low-income people these benefits, but if you're in an apartment getting to a charger, we had an electric vehicle for like 2 days, and just the thought, it was going to be thousands of dollars for us to hook up a appropriate charging station. So I don't know. I know that's part of it. And then as far as like ComEd energy, will it be like solar farms? Is that how we're gonna make that happen?
So it's a clarifying question. Are you talking about the community change grants or the Illinois Solar for All program, or what is this?
The Solar for All. I was just wondering, is that intended more for the electric vehicles, or is that really more? I assume that's more for like your electric, your in-house electrics.
Well, that's a really great question. And so with the Illinois Climate Bank, with their implementation it's very new. We're talking like this announcement was made last month, and on their website they lay out some slides about how they kind of are picturing implementation, but they're currently actively working at the Illinois Climate Bank with the United States EPA to work on implementation. And so what that looks like, we're still not sure yet. I wish I could give a better answer, but I can drop some links in the chat to Illinois Solar for All and Illinois Shines, and kind of we can compare that to the US EPA Solar for All program.
So, Angela, I think I was linked into part of it. I think it was an IEC program last week that was a webinar that was on jobs being created in rural communities around the state. Or was it? But it was a job fair sort of a thing. Was that IEC, or was it CUB, or maybe was it both? But there were really interesting job things being created downstate. that I wasn't familiar with. I only linked into it for a little time, but I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was really good. Was that IEC?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, I thought it was really good. There's another comment. I'm in a condo association, so I can't put solar on our units without difficulty. But I stopped. There's a group in Palatine around the state called GRNE Solar, which is one of the solar companies, and I wanted them to see if they would come and present to our association. And they said they're not going to do residential anymore because they can't keep up with the large scale solar productions. And I thought that was really interesting. And I don't know if any other of you want to comment on that. Mike Zanilla might want to comment on that, so I'll have to go somewhere else if I want to get residential solar, but I thought that was fascinating. Any comments?
Yeah, Mark, GNRE actually got acquired by Nelnet about, I don't know, 6-8 months ago. And then Nelnet, I think, as an organization, is much more focused on commercial opportunities. And I think they just chose to kind of shut down the residential thing that was part of the GNRE acquisition.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a ton of other qualified providers in the area. And the Illinois Solar Association is a great resource to go to get plugged into an alternative to GNRE.
Any comments on your furnace system that you put in, your
my heat pump? It's
furnace
working great and
air conditioning,
saving me money, and looking forward to my solar panels going live in about another month or so. And we'll actually be able to kind of heat my house and cool my house for free when the sun is out.
Okay, so what other questions do we have? We see anything else in chat? Let's see.
See a comment from Diane, if I could jump in, that says these programs are terrific, but I fear that not many people know about this, especially low income and rural homes. Can these programs be canceled if Trump gets in or if the Senate flips? Yes, I will say that we saw, unfortunately, the Inflation Reduction Act gave a lot of money to the IRS for tax fairness as one of its huge kind of planks. And this past year, we did see Republicans in the House claw back a bunch of IRS funding as part of the debt ceiling negotiation and our government funding bill for this past year. That certainly is something that is at risk. That I would say that the Biden administration has made a really clear line that the clean energy standards and that funding was kind of not up for negotiation with them. But in a scenario in which we don't, Democrats don't have the executive branch or they don't have a majority in Congress, this funding certainly could get clawed back if people don't know about it and aren't singing the praises of what government has been helping them do in their communities.
Angela, I think it was the Solar Shines thing that was maybe that webinar that I saw about developing jobs in the rural community. I think maybe that's what that was. Angela put something in chat, and I see we have one of our friends, John Porterfield, is an expat living in Ecuador, so he's visiting us tonight, and looks like he's going to come up and be in DC lobbying. Mike, do you know John?
Yes, I met him in a past Indivisible meeting. Yes.
So there's a lot of CCL is having a lobbying day with Congress coming up shortly.
And
Mark's Bob Caprica has a note that he put out there. Maybe Bob can come out and actually expand on that. His actual note is regarding charging stations. When you write a review online, call out if they do or do not have an EV charger. That's interesting. Can you expand on that?
Well, yeah. I don't know if everyone can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
Basically, when you do a review, you can just put in there, appreciate they have a charging station, or no, they don't have a charging station, hope they would. A lot of times, too, realize that the charging stations are not always clearly accessible. They're easily to be found if you use apps to find them, and most EV people have those. Well, the IKEA in Schaumburg has 2 charging stations, and they're kind of tucked way off to the side on the south side of the building in a smaller parking lot. You wouldn't even realize they're there. So not all of them have those huge advertising things right by the front you see in some of the places. So, be careful that you don't hit them with something. They should have a charging station when in fact they do. But that would be my suggestion while you're doing that. And someone else mentioned here social media. I think that's fine too. Great thing.
And then we have a question from Mark
Looks like
Lewinsky.
Walensky.
Yeah.
Mark, do you want to come on and talk about that question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I'm Mark Walensky, and I live down in Naperville. And as many of you may know, we've been asked by our energy provider, IMEA, to renew our contract early and also extend it. And we currently get about 50% of our energy from coal. So I was curious, what is in the IRA that would be helpful for us to talk to our municipal leaders about, so that we understand what may be available to encourage the provider to move away from coal and find cleaner sources of energy like solar and wind.
I know one of the things I would suggest would be to get you, and probably you're already doing this, is to get in contact with CUB, the Citizens Utility Board people, because they are really onto that stuff. And have you gotten in contact with Citizens Utility Board?
I have not myself, no.
That's a terrific organization, and they have all the tools for lobbying against fossil fuel industry and rates and all kinds of stuff. So we've had them on several times, and Sarah Moskowitz is the CEO, I think, of it now. But I would get in contact with them and get some ammunition, because they can really help you, I think.
Great. That's a great idea, Mark. Thank you.
And I recently saw that CUB is actually working up in Minnesota now, so they're expanding. They're trying to stop the polymet mine from going into the boundary waters, along with the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, another great group, a bunch of lady environmental lawyers that are tigers, and we need all those. So what else have we got here? We got any other questions?
Yeah, Mark, this is Bill. I just wanted to note we're going to lose both of our speakers at 8:00. So if there's any other questions that Angela, either one of our speakers want to address for the next few minutes, that would be great.
Yeah, I do want to share one last thing, and I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully you can see this. A really great question about how can we get this information out to rural areas in Illinois, to low-income areas in Illinois. And so I attended a conference out in Springfield where it was attended by municipal leaders from all over rural Illinois, representing municipalities of populations of 5,000 or less. And it was really great getting to connect with all these different decision makers and their constituents. And so this is an energy community tax credit bonus. This is specifically available to those who have been affected by a coal mine closure, or if you're living in a metropolitan statistical area. And this map is by the US DOE that's open. You can kind of see this map. A lot of Illinois just lights up, right? And all these places that lights up on the map are eligible for this credit bonus, for all these different tax credits that can actually cover any projects that they want. And so we have been engaging closely with the office of Senator Tammy Duckworth. She has a Central Illinois and Southern Illinois office that we've been speaking with, and they're working closely with the Interagency Working Group. You may have heard that organization name. They work closely with communities that have been affected by coal mine closure, and there's different grant opportunities under IRA. So we're trying to get that outreach out there as much as possible. Let me see if there's slides that I can share with you about this information. Yes, there's the Advanced Energy Investment Tax Credit as well. Similarly, it's a 48C program. There's $4 billion that's allocated for projects and facilities that work on manufacturing and recycling critical materials, refining, processing, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And so a lot of these tax credits are available to these energy communities. Energy communities can also be brownfields. So I just want to put those out there.
Angela, Trisha, do you have any more comments? And maybe both of you could say something about action items. What sort of action would you like to see us take, or that we could do? Because we do have a bunch of people involved here that will contact their reps and their state state senators and reps and our senators. Any ideas? I don't know
And
where.
just this part,
Yeah.
I would say if you haven't signed up for Neighbor to Neighbor, certainly do that. I think we can forward along the links after this call. I think from where we sit, talking to folks in your community at this point about how the IRA can benefit them and like why this legislation is so important and all the ways that, like it's benefiting them, their communities. I think it's just going to be critical. It's like getting that information out there and hearing it from someone in your own community we found has been really impactful. And so sign up for Neighbor to Neighbor. I know that like that program does have a shelf life, but continue to talk to other people. Like when you run into someone at the supermarket, ask them if they've heard about these things. Mention the heat pump that you just put in or the fact that you're trying to get solar on your roof. I think like just having those conversations is really, really critical.
And I know we've got powering progress sheets we can hand out. And I think, Angela, you've got some IEC sheets we can hand out. So we'll be doing that at some various functions. We've got a Palatine Town Fest coming up in June sometime, I think. And then Bill's Picnic, it'll be in
July 4th. It's the July 4th
that's
weekend.
July 4th, the Palatine Town Fest. There will be a bunch of us there. Bill's has an NWSOFA picnic in August. That'll be a big deal. And Trisha, I don't know if Shay's coming out here. Trisha, you might want to come. Angela, you might want to put that on your
We'll
calendar.
find out if it's in the budget. I would love to come. I'm actually really upset that I missed the rally for the Supreme Court in Palatine last week. And so we'll see if I can make it out there.
Yep. So yeah, please keep in touch, and thanks Shay for getting you in touch with us and coming on. And if you want to come back on at some time, let us know. We can get you into a program. If there are things that are going on or action items that we need to act on, we need to hear from you. So I'm very appreciative that you came on tonight. And so thank you so much. And also, Angela, you're wonderful. Thanks for coming on again. And we'll have these periodically to see how this is rolling out. If you have some things to share, please let us know.